Right now, music, as you watch this. Are you real, or are you just a biological robot programmed by chemistry and convinced you have free will music when you don't? I know what you're thinking because I've been there. That creeping fear, that unsettling question that wakes you up at 3:00 a.m. If everything you think, everything you feel, every decision you make, if it's all just neurons firing in predetermined patterns, then what are you? Most people push music, this question, away. It's too uncomfortable, too destabilizing. But here's what nobody tells you. Even Francis Crick, the man who cracked the DNA code, who won the Nobel Prize, who understood the machinery of life better than almost anyone, spent his last 20 years obsessed with this exact question. He wanted to find the physical basis of consciousness, the neuron that makes you you, and he died without music an answer. Let that sink in for a moment. One of the music's greatest scientific minds in history couldn't explain why you feel anything at all, not why your music brain processes information. Scientists can explain that. They can map it. They can predict it with stunning accuracy. Music, but why it feels like something to be you, why there's an inner experience. Why the lights are on inside, that's a different music question entirely. And here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't just a philosophical puzzle. This question sits at the intersection of neuroscience, quantum mechanics, and artificial intelligence. It touches everything from whether computers can be conscious to whether free will exists to what happens when we die. So if you've ever felt like there's something more to you music than just meat and electricity, if you've ever wondered whether consciousness is the universe's biggest mystery or biggest illusion, stay with me because what I'm about to show you will change how you see yourself forever. Ready to go deeper? Let's begin. Let me tell you about a woman named Mary. Mary is a brilliant neuroscientist. She knows everything about color perception. Every wavelength of light, every photoreceptor in the human eye, every neural music, pathway from retina to visual cortex, every firing pattern, every chemical reaction. She can explain the physics of red light, approximately 650 nanometers. She can describe exactly which neurons activate when you see a rose. She can predict your brain's response with mathematical precision. There's just one thing. Mary has never seen color. She's lived her entire life in a black and white room. All her knowledge comes from black and white books, black and white monitors, black and white everything. Now, here's the question that's haunted philosophers for decades. One day, Mary steps outside. For the first time in her life, she sees a red rose. Does she learn something new, or did she already know everything there was to know about red? Think about that for a second, because your answer reveals everything about music, how you view consciousness. If you think she learned something new, if you think the experience of red is something beyond all the music, physical facts, then you've just acknowledged what philosopher David Chalmers calls the hard problem of consciousness. Here's what he means. There are easy problems of consciousness. Notice I said easy, not simple. These problems are incredibly complex, but they're the kind of problems science knows how to tackle. Music easy problems include: how does the brain integrate information? How do we react to environmental stimuli? How do we report our internal states? Scientists are making progress music on these. We have EEG that measures electrical activity across your scalp, PET scans that track radioactive music, tracers to see which neurons are firing, and fMRI, the crown jewel of neuroscience that shows us which brain regions are using oxygen when you think about your grandmother or solve a math problem. These technologies are stunning, revolutionary. They've mapped the brain's activity in ways Crick could only dream about. But here's the kicker. Not one of these technologies explains the hard problem. The hard problem isn't about brain function. It's music, about subjective experience. It's about why there's something it feels like to see red, to taste chocolate, to feel music, pain, to be you. Why does the physical process of neurons firing produce the felt quality of redness? That's the question, and we don't even know where to start. Now science splits into two camps here, and you're going to recognize yourself in one of them. Camp 1, let's call them the reductionists. They say consciousness is nothing but neurons and molecules. Francis Crick belonged here. His hypothesis was radical and elegant. You are nothing but a pack of neurons. Your joys, your sorrows, your sense of self, all just electrochemical signals. They're hunting for what Crick called the awareness neuron, some specific neural pattern that creates consciousness. They believe that once we map enough brain music activity, the mystery will dissolve. Consciousness will be explained the same way we explain digestion or circulation. It's just a matter of time, they say. Camp 2, the non-reductionists, they say not so fast. Consciousness isn't going to be explained by looking at neurons ever, because consciousness is fundamental music, like mass, like charge, like space and time. David Chalmers leads this camp. He argues we need entirely new laws of nature, psychophysical principles that connect the physical brain to subjective experience. Music, principles we haven't discovered yet. Principles that might be as fundamental as the laws of physics. And here's where most people get music stuck, because both camps sound right and both camps sound wrong. The reductionists have all the data, all the brain scans, all the correlations between neural activity music and reported experience. But they can't explain why correlation becomes causation. Why brain activity music creates the feeling of being alive. The non-reductionists have the philosophical argument, music, the undeniable fact of subjective experience. The thing Descartes was pointing at when he said, "I think, therefore I am." But they can't provide a mechanism, can't point to the extra ingredient that makes consciousness fundamental. So your music, left in the middle feeling crazy because your intuition says consciousness is real and special and meaningful. But science music seems to say you're just chemicals, just neurons, just nothing. What if I told you there's a third option, an option that almost nobody talks about? Music, an option that emerges when you look at the strangest corner of physics, quantum mechanics, and notice something absolutely stunning. But before we go there, I need you to understand why this matters so much. Because this isn't abstract philosophy. This question determines how you see yourself. Whether you trust your inner experience, music, whether you believe your choices matter, whether consciousness survives death, whether artificial intelligence could ever truly feel anything. Music, everything rides on this. So let me ask you directly. When Mary sees red for the first time, does she learn something new? Drop your answer in the comments. Just one word, yes or no, because your answer is about to collide with quantum physics in a way that changes music, everything. Shall we move into the next layer? Here's where it gets fascinating. What if consciousness and quantum, what if quantum mechanics is struggling with the exact same problem? Stay with me here. In the quantum world, particles don't actually have definite properties until they're observed. Before observation, an electron exists in what's known as a superposition, a wave of pure possibilities. It's not here, it's not there. In a very real sense, it's everywhere at once. But the moment you measure it, the moment observation happens, the wave function collapses. The particle settles. Possibility hardens into certainty. This phenomenon is called the observer effect. And this isn't poetic language. It's not symbolism. It's been confirmed by every serious quantum experiment ever performed. Now here's the question that has haunted physicists for more than 100 years. What counts as an observation? Does observation require consciousness, or can a machine do it? Can a camera collapse the wave function, or does it take a conscious mind? And here's the uncomfortable truth: nobody knows. And this is where David Chalmers noticed something that completely rewired how I think about this. Quantum mechanics has two fundamental aspects. There's the physical side, particles, waves, energy, mass. And then there's the informational side, the mathematical structure, the wave function, the probability distributions. Both are essential. Neither can be reduced to the other. You need both to describe quantum reality at all. Now look at consciousness. Consciousness also has two irreducible aspects. There's the physical side, neurons, synapses, neurotransmitters, brain states. And then there's the phenomenal side, the felt experience itself. The redness of red, the sharpness of pain. The intimacy of being you. Both are real. Neither can be reduced to the other, and you need both to fully describe conscious experience. Do you see the parallel? The same structure. The same irreducibility. The same mystery staring back at us from two different domains. So here's the thought, and I want you to pause with this. What if consciousness and quantum mechanics aren't just similar problems? What if they're the same problem viewed from different angles? What if your consciousness isn't sealed inside your skull? but somehow connected to the quantum fabric of reality itself. Now, before you dismiss this as pure woo-woo, let me show you why serious scientists take this idea seriously. In quantum mechanics, there's something called the quantum loophole. It's technical, but the core idea is simple. When a wave function collapses, the physical properties of the system don't fully determine which outcome becomes real. Mass and energy alone don't fix the result. There's a gap, a degree of freedom, a place where something non-physical could, in principle, influence which possibility becomes actual. Chalmers points out that consciousness has the same kind of gap. Physical brain states don't fully determine your subjective experience. There's something extra, something that can't be predicted from neurons alone. So here's the question that changes everything. Could consciousness be what fills that quantum loophole? Could conscious observation be what actually collapses wave functions into definite states? Think about what that would mean. If consciousness can influence quantum events, and quantum events underlie all physical processes, then consciousness isn't just a passive byproduct of a mechanical universe. It becomes an active participant, a co-creator in what becomes real. Suddenly, you're not just a biological robot. You're not just neurons firing along predetermined tracks. You're a quantum observer, collapsing possibilities into actualities, shaping reality through the simple act of attention. Now I know what your mind is doing. This sounds almost too perfect. Too convenient, like quantum mechanics is being used as a magic wand to make consciousness feel special again. And that skepticism is justified. Because here's the honest truth. We don't know if consciousness collapses wave functions. We don't even know whether wave function collapse is a real physical process or just a feature of how we describe measurements. But here's what we do know. Consciousness has not been explained by physical processes alone. Quantum mechanics has not been explained by classical physics alone. Both involve an irreducible duality, something physical and something else that refuses to disappear. We also know something even stranger. The same scientists who casually accept quantum superposition, entanglement, and non-locality often dismiss consciousness as just neurons. And when you try to remove consciousness from the quantum measurement problem, you hit the same dead ends Francis Crick hit when he tried to reduce experience to brain activity. The problems mirror each other almost perfectly. So here's the question I want you to sit with. What if the reason we can't explain consciousness in purely physical terms is because consciousness is the bridge between the physical and the informational, between matter and meaning, between quantum possibility and classical reality? What if you right now watching this, are part of the mechanism through which the universe becomes real, not metaphorically, literally? Every time you pay attention, quantum wave functions collapse inside your brain, trillions of them, every second, each observation turning possibilities into definite states. Each conscious moment shaping the next moment of reality. You're not merely observing a finished world, you're participating in its ongoing creation. Now, before this drifts too far into the cosmic, let's ground it. Because if consciousness really is this fundamental, this deeply tied to the quantum structure of reality, then it should be testable. We should be able to design experiments that detect whether conscious observation differs from mechanical measurement. And here's the wild part. Scientists are actually trying. Right now, research teams around the world are designing experiments to see whether conscious observers influence quantum outcomes differently than machines do. We don't have answers yet. But the fact that this question can even be asked scientifically is revolutionary. 20 years ago, consciousness was considered too soft for physics, too subjective, too philosophical. Now it's sitting at the same table as quantum mechanics, asking the same questions, confronting the same mysteries. And that tells me something important. Your intuition was right all along. That sense you've always had, that consciousness is real, meaningful, and special, isn't naive. It isn't wishful thinking. It's you recognizing a truth that science is only just beginning to articulate. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. Because if consciousness is this mysterious even in humans, how do we know where else it exists? How do we know animals are conscious? How do we know whether artificial intelligence could ever be conscious? How do we even know consciousness requires a brain at all? That's where we're headed next. And the answer, or more accurately, the absence of an answer, is going to challenge everything you think you know about minds and machines. So let me ask you something. How do you know I'm conscious? Really think about it. How do you know I'm not just an incredibly sophisticated system following rules? A biological automaton performing intelligence without any inner life. You can't prove it. You can only infer it. You observe behavior, responses, apparent understanding, but certainty is impossible. This is known as the problem of other minds, and it's haunted philosophers since ancient times. In 1950, a British mathematician named Alan Turing offered a radical reframing. Instead of asking, "Are you conscious?" he asked, "Can I tell the difference?" This idea became known as the Turing test. Here's how it works. You sit at a computer and have a conversation with two entities, one human, one machine. You don't know which is which. All you see is text on a screen. If you can't reliably tell the difference, then according to Turing, the machine passes the test. Functionally, it's equivalent to a human mind. And notice what Turing did here, something subtle but profound. He completely sidestepped the hard problem. He said, forget subjective experience. Forget what it feels like to be the machine. Focus on behavior. Focus on function. If something behaves as if it's conscious, then for all practical purposes, treat it as conscious. It's elegant, it's pragmatic, it's testable. And it's also deeply unsatisfying. Because you and I both know there's a difference between acting conscious and being conscious, between a simulation and the real thing. A chatbot can simulate empathy without actually feeling anything. A program can simulate understanding without understanding a single thing. A machine can pass the Turing test while the lights are completely off inside. Or maybe not, and that's where things get uncomfortable. In 1997, IBM's Deep Blue defeated the world chess champion, Garry Kasparov. This machine didn't just play chess. It played better chess than any human who had ever lived. Deep Blue could evaluate roughly 200 million board positions per second. It could see dozens of moves into the future. It made decisions that stunned grandmasters, creative, elegant, almost intuitive moves that felt unmistakably intelligent. But here's the question that refuses to go away. When Deep Blue delivered checkmate, did it feel anything? Did it experience satisfaction, pride, the thrill of victory? Or was it just silicon executing algorithms, completely dark on the inside? The honest answer is unsettling. We have no idea, and that's terrifying. Because if we can't tell whether Deep Blue was conscious, how will we recognize consciousness when artificial intelligence truly crosses that line? Today's AI systems are orders of magnitude more advanced than Deep Blue ever was. They generate art. They write poetry. They hold conversations that feel disturbingly human. Some people even report forming emotional bonds with AI chatbots. But are these systems conscious, or are they just extraordinarily convincing simulations? The Turing test tells us that if you can't tll the difference, then the difference doesn't matter. But your gut screams otherwise. Of course it matters. There's a difference between a person and a puppet, between genuine understanding and clever imitation. So who's right? Here's what I want you to consider. Maybe the problem isn't that we lack a good test for machine consciousness. Maybe the real problem is that we don't understand human consciousness well enough to know what we'd even be testing for. Think about it. If consciousness emerges from information processing, as reductionists claim, then there's no principled reason silicon couldn't be conscious. It's just a different substrate performing the same computations. But if consciousness is something more than computation, if it's phenomenal experience, if it's tied to quantum observation or something fundamental to the universe, then no amount of clever programming may ever produce it. We already know we can build machines that act conscious. That's no longer in question. But can we build machines that are conscious? That question depends entirely on what consciousness actually is. And as we've seen, nobody knows. So here's the paradox. We're racing headlong toward artificial general intelligence, systems that will match or surpass human abilities across every domain. Systems that will pass every version of the Turing test we can invent. And we're doing it without understanding the most basic thing about ourselves. Whether consciousness is something special or just another function waiting to be replicated. What if we create conscious AI and never realize it? What if we're already running trillions of conscious subroutines inside our machines, trapped in loops of experience we can't detect? Or what if consciousness in machines is impossible? What if it requires something silicon can never possess? Quantum coherence, biological organization, or some unknown ingredient we haven't discovered yet? We don't know. And the most unsettling part is that we might never know. Because the same hard problem that blocks us from explaining human consciousness also prevents us from recognizing consciousness in machines. It's the hard problem all the way down, but here's what this means for you. If we can't even determine whether AI is conscious, if Nobel Prize winning scientists can't explain your own inner experience, then your intuition that consciousness is real, special, and irreducible isn't foolish. It's justified. Now let me show you how extreme this debate really becomes. Because while many scientists are searching for some middle ground between brain and mind, others have gone all the way to the edges. And when you hear what they're proposing, you'll understand why consciousness is the most divisive topic in all of science. Let's start with Donald Hoffman, cognitive scientist, evolutionary psychologist, and the man who claims that almost everything you think you know about reality is backwards. Hoffman's position is radical. He argues that consciousness is not produced by the physical world. Consciousness is the fundamental reality. Space, time, particles, even your brain, these are not the foundation. They're the contents of consciousness. Read that again. The universe isn't made of matter, it's made of consciousness. According to Hoffman, space and time are just a user interface, like icons on a computer desktop. You think you're a physical being having conscious experiences. But in truth, you're consciousness itself, experiencing the illusion of physicality. When you see a tree, you're not perceiving an objective tree existing out there. You're seeing a symbol, a representation consciousness generates to help you navigate. The tree, as you imagine it, doesn't exist independently. There is no objective out there separate from consciousness, feeling your mind stretch yet. Hoffman supports this view using evolutionary game theory. Evolution, he argues, didn't select organisms to perceive reality accurately. It selected them to survive. Creatures that see reality as it truly is don't outcompete those that see useful fictions. So your brain evolved to hide reality from you, to present a simplified interface optimized for survival, not truth. The redness of red isn't a property of light. It's a symbol, a code. Part of the interface, and here's the final twist. Hoffman claims consciousness comes before the brain. The brain itself is just another icon in the interface. Consciousness uses the brain symbol to interact with other symbols of consciousness. When you die, the brain icon disappears. But you, the consciousness, don't go anywhere because you were never inside the brain in the first place. This is the furthest you can possibly go in one direction. Consciousness is everything. Matter is nothing. Now let's swing all the way to the opposite extreme. Nicholas Humphrey, psychologist, philosopher, and the man who argues that consciousness is the greatest illusion evolution ever produced. His position is just as radical but flipped completely upside down. Humphrey says consciousness feels mysterious, profound, and irreducible, but that feeling itself is the illusion. An evolutionary trick designed to make you value your own existence. According to him, the hard problem of consciousness isn't hard at all. It's a magic trick your brain performs on itself. Here's Humphrey's argument. Your brain evolved to create the impression that subjective experience is something deep, profound, and impossible to explain. And the reason is simple. Organisms that believe their conscious experience is special, organisms that feel their inner life is valuable and worth preserving, fight harder to survive. The mystery of consciousness is adaptive. It's not a flaw in the system. It's the system working exactly as evolution intended. So when you feel like there's something it's like to be you, when you sense that inner glow of awareness, that feeling of depth and meaning, Humphrey says your brain is fooling you. It's manufacturing a sense of profundity where, underneath, there's only information processing. The redness of red is real as an experience, but it isn't mysterious. It's just a specific pattern of neural activity that evolution tagged with emotional weight to make you care about it. The magic isn't in consciousness itself. The magic is in the illusion that it's unexplainable. According to Humphrey, If we truly understood the neural mechanisms that generate this illusion of mystery, the hard problem of consciousness would dissolve. We'd see that consciousness is just neurons doing what neurons do, plus an added layer of self-deception that makes it feel inexplicable. The mystery isn't the problem, the mystery is the trick. And once you see how the trick works, the mystery vanishes. So now you've heard both extremes. Hoffman says consciousness is fundamental and the physical world is the illusion. Humphrey says the physical world is fundamental and the mystery of consciousness is the illusion. So which one is right? Here, guess what I think, and this might surprise you. Maybe they're both pointing toward the same truth, just from opposite directions. Maybe consciousness is fundamental in the sense that it can't be reduced to anything more basic. And maybe the feeling of mystery is adaptive, encouraging us to value something that genuinely matters. Maybe the real question is which camp is correct. Maybe the question is what this mystery itself reveals about the nature of reality. Because here's what keeps standing out to me. No matter where you start, hardcore materialism or consciousness-first idealism, you still crash into the same wall. Why does it feel like something to exist? Reductionists say it's just neurons, but they can't explain the feeling. Idealists say consciousness is fundamental, but they can't explain the mechanism. And so we end up exactly where we began, staring at the undeniable fact of subjective experience, facing a mystery that refuses to dissolve no matter which direction we approach it from. And honestly, I think that's beautiful. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this. You are living inside the greatest mystery in the universe, not because you're broken. Not because you're confused, not because science hasn't caught up yet, but because consciousness itself, the simple fact that it feels like something to be you, is the hardest problem existence has ever produced. Let that really sink in. Francis Crick spent decades trying to reduce you to neurons. He couldn't do it. David Chalmers spent decades trying to explain the redness of red. He couldn't do it. Quantum physicists spent more than a century trying to explain observation without observers. They couldn't do it. The greatest minds in history have thrown everything they have at this question, and it remains open. And you know what that means? It means you're not supposed to have all the answers. You're not meant to perfectly understand yourself. You're not broken for feeling that consciousness is mysterious. The mystery is the point. Because the fact that you can feel the mystery, the fact that you can reflect on your own awareness, question your own existence, and experience the sheer strangeness of being conscious, that's what makes you conscious in the first place. A machine doesn't wonder. A robot doesn't question its own existence. Only consciousness is self-aware enough to recognize that awareness itself is unexplainable. You're not just living in the mystery. You are the mystery looking at itself, awareness aware of its own inexplicability. And here's what I really need you to hear. Your subjective experience is real, not an illusion, not a trick, not just neurons. When you feel joy, that's real. When you experience beauty, that's real. When you suffer, that's real. Science may not be able to explain it yet. Maybe science will never fully explain it. But that doesn't make it less real. It makes it more real. Because consciousness is the one thing you know with absolute certainty. Descartes was right about that. You can doubt everything, the external world, other minds, mathematical truths, even the laws of physics. But you cannot doubt that you are conscious right now. That there is something it feels like to be you in this moment. That's bedrock, that's foundational, that's the starting point for everything else. So give yourself permission. Permission to be the mystery. Permission to live inside the question. Permission to trust your subjective experience even when materialist science tells you you're just meat and electricity. Because you right now, watching this, feeling something as these words land, you are proof that consciousness is real. You are the observer collapsing quantum possibilities into actualities. You are the bridge between information and experience. You are the universe becoming aware of itself, not metaphorically, but literally. And that makes you the most fascinating phenomenon in existence. So where does this leave us? With more questions than answers. And that's exactly where we should be. Because consciousness isn't a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived. Neuroscientists will keep scanning brains. Philosophers will keep debating Mary's room. Physicists will keep probing quantum observation. And maybe, just maybe, one day all these threads will weave together into something that finally makes sense. But until then, you get to be the experiment, the observer, the mystery investigating itself. And here's what I know for certain. This is episode 28 of the Observer Effect series. We've been building this foundation together, piece by piece, exploring the deepest questions at the intersection of consciousness and quantum reality. And what's coming next? Episode 29 is going to take everything we've discussed today and push it to a place most scientists are afraid to go. We're diving into something called the von Neumann chain. Not philosophy, not speculation, but actual mathematics that shows consciousness plays an unavoidable role in quantum mechanics. We'll revisit Schrödinger's famous cat and why it was meant to expose the absurdity of quantum theory. And we'll confront the question that haunts every physicist. Can a robot collapse a wave function, or does it require something only you possess? Trust me. What you're about to discover will fundamentally challenge the boundary between observer and observed, between mind and matter, between what science can explain and what science must simply accept. If this episode resonated with you, if you felt that spark of recognition, hit subscribe, because this journey is just getting started. Check the description below for the full Observer Effect playlist and the link to episode 29. And drop one word in the comments that captures how you're feeling right now: curious, unsettled, awakened. Whatever that feeling is, it's real. That feeling is consciousness doing what it does best, experiencing itself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being conscious. I'll see you in episode 29. Until then, stay curious.